Wow. As promised, I mentioned that I would tell a little story before I continue with the next leg of our work. It's about this man who decided one fine day that he wanted to be able to power off 100 push-ups a day, because he associated that ability of being able to do 100 push-ups all day, every day with consistency and success and his next level, etc., etc. He would start the practice of trying to add a push-up a day and build up towards 100. But he found that the going was very tough. His fitness levels weren't optimal to begin with. And as the days went by, he found himself procrastinating the task, falling behind. He found himself finding excuses to avoid this practice. And before long, he started to feel discouraged. And he ended up, being able to speak to a coach. And he said to this coach, I'm a quitter. I'm a procrastinator. I can't seem to put my mind to this one goal I had of powering out 100 push-ups a day, and I'm not able to stick to my goal of adding a push-up a day to my practice and getting to that, becoming that guy who can just do it every day and become that tough, capable person. And it's driving me insane, and I just feel so low, I feel so down, I don't know what to do. Why can't I stick to the practice of push-ups every day without missing a single day? So just like, the coach he happened to go to was a good one, and he held space for him and allowed this person, this client, to open up and become and connect with his own expertise in himself. And before long, he started to explore his belief systems. Probably, I think this started 1 week into coaching. And, because he was starting to really enjoy this reflective, safe space held for him by his coach, he started to get vulnerable and start exploring his beliefs and bringing them up from deep within his unconscious mind and laying them out on the table for him to observe. And before he knew it, with these beliefs that emerged, he started to time travel back in time to his childhood, and he realized that at some point it just hit him. His fixation on equating being able to do 100 push-ups a day, every day, to being a capable, complete person living at his full potential, that never came from him. That was borrowed from things that his father said to him when he was growing up. And it was an inherited belief, but it was never really one from his own map of the world, from his own lived experience, from his own journey. And that belief that a person of capability and power and endurance and who was going somewhere, that person was someone who could do 100 push-ups a day without a break. That was something that emerged for his father, from his father's map of the world, due to his own lived experience as from in his lifetime. And by the time this person realized that this was a borrowed belief imposed on him and absorbed by him during his formative years, that was not actually relevant to his own journey, his father had already passed on and moved on. And this man, not only did he reconnect with grief for his father having passed on, he also suddenly realized and started to wonder how many more of his beliefs were from an era that no longer existed, were from a person who was no longer there, and were not really rooted in his own journey, his own stories, his own experiences, his own potential. And it was a huge wake-up call for him, because what he realized in that moment was he had not picked a goal that was his own. It was somebody else's goal and was never his to begin with. And the reason he was not able to stick to it was it's hard, it's near impossible to carry out someone else's dream. And it's so much more meaningful and natural to live your own dream. And with that realization, he suddenly realized he didn't know what his dream was. But this time there was no dismay or sorrow, there was curiosity. Suddenly he realized, I haven't really gotten to know myself. I must understand more about who I am, and I need to reflect and retreat into myself. He was so glad that he now had access to a coach who was ethical and who was patient and who helped him feel reflective. And he decided to dedicate the rest of his coaching contract to getting to know himself. And as he did that, as he started to uncover his own stories, his own values, his own sense of identity, he realized that in his own lifetime, though it wasn't as long as his father's, he had probably already achieved so much more that he hadn't given himself credit for. And he remembered that there was this job application to a foreign country that he had come across in a publication, and he realized, I have actually already acquired all the qualifications I need for that job. What if I apply for the job, take this well-calculated chance, and discover that I'm what they want for that position? Maybe for me, connecting with my capability, my full potential, means having faith in myself, leveraging all the gains I've accumulated without realizing it, and putting them to work for me in a position, in a company, in an industry that I happen to love, and maximize my sense of self there. Who needs to do push-ups for that? It was such a huge moment of growth for him about his appreciation and understanding of himself that he couldn't wait to do this. Notice the difference in energy. Suddenly, what was procrastination? It was no longer a thing. It was an invented concept that really had no meaning, and that was used to label a situation that was completely normal, natural, and human. And once he started to get an innate understanding of all these little contradictions and paradoxes that define the human experience, and once he started to see himself in this holistic, appreciative light, and he started to notice all those things about him that he hadn't really thought of before, the goalposts of what was success for him shifted to something that was truly unique to him, that celebrated all his capabilities and achievements to their fullest, that was in sync with his core identity, that nourished his values, and that allowed him to connect not just with independence and self-actualization, but with true authenticity and intentionality. In other words, rather than focusing only on a textbook outcome, which often takes a form of 50 push-ups a day, or completing 50 emails in one sitting, etc., etc. His goalposts now went beyond the outcome and were all about what experience he wanted to gift himself in his lifetime. It was so much larger than just outcomes. And once he realized the experience he really wanted for himself, the state he wanted to live in for the rest of his life, the real outcomes, the ones that would take him to that experience, suddenly emerged out of nowhere. in the form of a job advertisement that he suddenly remembered at the right moment when he was ready for it. And the goalposts now included many goalposts, taking him to the promised land of living the life that was his own and that was in sync with him, and that was full of all the positive associations that come with living from a state of flow and intention. So on that happy ending of that story, I will now continue with the next leg of my intentional journey of growing my knowledge base and my capabilities as a coach so that I can bring the best of my skills to clients going forward. That is what my studies are all about. I'm studying about the neuroscience of coaching, and it is such a gripping subject. I'm going to keep at this program until, side by side with you guys, until one day I have the certificate in my hand and I get to show it to you on one of these live streams. And we get to celebrate that goalpost together. And and I hope to hear of your achievements too, guys. I'm really looking forward to this, to all the celebrations that can, happen in this co-working space together. This is what's possible with the meditative work ritual or the meditative work practice. Something that is exclusively your own or my own, and that we can do in our sanctuaries and recharge ourselves so that we can go back to the real world tomorrow or after this is done, and bring the best of ourselves and our minds and our beliefs to shaping reality as we see fit. So on that fun note, with that sense of energy, let's return to our projects and let's now continue to work for the next, I would say, half an hour before we call it a night and get some sleep, at least if you're in the Asian part of the world. So I'll see you guys in about half an hour.